Welcome, everyone. Welcome to all of our viewers. Thank you for tuning in. I just wanted to say hello on behalf of the Martin Luther King Jr. Justice Coalition, the coordinating committee, Julie Enslow, Brother George Martin, Brother Brian Verdin, and myself, Fidel, and the co-director here at True School. We're so happy to host, and we're so happy that you could join us for this year's Martin Luther King celebration entitled Unity Against Racism, Where Do We Go From Here? So if you are watching this live on the internet, share it right now. Please tag somebody, share it, make sure you can help get the word out and spread the awareness. We're gonna have a really rich conversation and discussion with our guests that you see here today. I'm glad that everyone here has made it. First of all, thank you all for your time. What the meaning of Dr. King's life and how that affects your work today. Christine,
okay, all right. I've always felt that Martin Luther King, his legacy, and I'm so grateful the fact that we have documentaries and videos and recordings of his voice and the movement, that there's a archive and you can actually hear it. And obviously it's a lived movement that's been handed down, right, generation by generation. I know George Martin talks about when he was, a child, and here you're talking about, being part, like it's not that long ago.
That's right.
And I'm just grateful for that oral history and for that real history, because it's so strong, so clear. To me, it's like a glass of water in the desert. That to nourish us right. In the struggle, and in particular, I think the power of Martin Luther King and the movement. And when you think about him, I think it's impossible to not see it and feel it and hear it as a movement, of which it was a very strategic, smart, courageous movement. But I think one of the most inspiring things was the tremendous nobility, that the vision that they carried, that he carried. It was a struggle against racism. It was a struggle against poverty. It was a struggle against global inequality and justice. But I think, it's like he carried everybody along with him. It was like the human race. It was about rescuing the human race as a whole to be the best that we can be, to live in a truly just society. And I feel like, it's just so powerful. So, yeah, absolutely. We definitely stand on the shoulders of his legacy. And it's interesting to note how a struggle going into 2022, and that started now in 2021 from the right, is about denying our history. So they're not even having Martin Luther King Day history talked about. So it's about so we're having to defend the progress that was made around talking about our history as a movement, talking about the importance of Martin Luther King.
That documentation is so important. As you speaking about it in the past, that's why we document it here now. That's why we want everybody to share it, because we have to broadcast what's happening.
Something that I've always really admired about King's work is just about his consistency, His messaging was consistent, his goals were consistent, his action was consistent. And, that's something that when you start organizing, you realize that's actually a very difficult thing to do, because, there's so many things going wrong in this world, right, that you kind of want to jump from one thing to the next. He was really good at putting it all in one hub. And, something that I also really appreciated about his work, is that, he put the Black liberation movement first, but he also understood what it meant to other movements, right? If it wasn't for the Black liberation movement, we wouldn't have the Chicano movement of the 1960s, If it wasn't for the Black liberation movement, we wouldn't see the anti-war movement, we wouldn't see the peace movement, we wouldn't see any of that, right?
Absolutely.
And so, I just love his ability to do that, because I don't think we see that as much nowadays. He was willing to put up and support poor white working class people and kind of put them all under the same umbrella. I thought that was incredible. And, that greatly influences my work today. We work a lot with labor, we work a lot with other movements. And, and in terms of what kind of keeps me going today, and my inspiration for staying in the movement, it's that's always been hard for me, because it's kind of like asking somebody why they breathe. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
You just kind of wake up and you realize it has to be done. And I'm sure Martin Luther King kind of had the same perspective, right? Because when you realize that nothing gets done without direct action, then it feels like it's your responsibility. You have to take this action, otherwise nothing is going to change. And so to me, it doesn't feel like a choice, because the alternative is so much worse, to just sit around and do nothing. So, people always say, like, thank you for your work to, all of us. I'm sure we get that a lot, right? But to me, it's like, this is just as much for me as it is for anyone else, right? Because, we're living in a really messed up place. And so it's important that we all take our personal responsibility and get people organized and get people ready to fight.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And that's much appreciated. That point of getting everybody and building that mass movement was something that we all can, again, go back to the documentation, and we find a lot of young people at the head of these conversations, at the head of the organizing and leadership and sacrifice, youth. And of course, the families that support them. Yasmine, being a young organizer, as you said, maybe using new tools, maybe using new phenomena to reach out and get your message and get your movement, if you will, off of the ground and unite people. Very specific, very particular, your organization. How do you use the work, the legacy of Dr. King in what you do today?
Well, firstly, I would say looking back at documentaries and books I've read on Dr. King, I admired his courage for everything that he did. I feel like, me personally, I don't have anybody in my family, or I guess anybody that I looked to growing up, that was doing any work like this. I kind of just woke up one day, I was tired of seeing the things I was seeing, and I decided to just go out there and do it. And the tools we have, and with OMA, it was something that started more so off of, here's a plan, we're going to petition this organization, and then realizing doing a petition isn't enough. We need to create our own space to bring other youth from our community and the Muslim community and help them, create a voice and lead and, bring people to follow along what we're doing as well. But social media, for sure, like it brings out our message further to, who we're trying to reach. And again, I spoke about just one day waking up and being an organizer. It's literally what happened. I got asked by the Sudanese community here in Milwaukee to create an event. I was at an airport about to go out of town. I didn't even get to attend that event. And then when I came back, I hosted 2 events back to back, and that's pretty much how I started. And thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that, because I had never done anything like that before. I never put on a rally or protest or anything. And yeah, it took me 4 days to just do one, and that's why I met Brian VERDIN there, and he showed up, and I appreciate him because he definitely gave me a little pep talk. And I also spoke about doing public speaking because it's not my thing, and yeah, he was there for me, and I appreciate that. And again, with coming with courage, I'm always scared when I'm doing things, but I just do it anyway.
It's bold. You have to be bold. And we appreciate your boldness. Yeah. And being able to step out, you will find support. You will find that you're not alone. You will find that there are people who actually maybe waiting to meet someone like you and get involved.
Oh yeah.
You know how that works.
I'll say that.
And as soon as you get on that front line, as they call it, you'll find that support and that allyship and that reinforcement that makes you feel like you knew when you got up and you took that bold risk or that leap of faith that you was doing the right thing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Because that's how it starts for everyone. Dr. King was very young, and a lot of his peers were very young, and we talking middle school young for some of them. So, and then
John Lewis.
Yeah, we talked to the young people about that, because being able to have that foundation and that support at that young age will no doubt catapult that leadership. So we applaud you and we thank you, and keep pushing no matter what.
That's right.
Yeah. And Brother David, your approach, I'm just going to frame your approach because you're a politician, as they say, a different breed of politician. You're showing a new model to the political body that exists. As a person who is an elected official, how do you, what does that legacy mean to you? Dr. King was never an elected official. Some people think what would have happened if he would have ran for something per se, and a lot of effective leadership during that time was not in the traditional realm of elected politics. How do you sort of speak to that, and as a young leader in that field as well, like how do you speak to that in reflection of Dr. King's mission?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really dope about this book in particular is he talks about his reflecting of, after all that they've done to that point, what systemically or in a large way has changed based on their intent of trying to say, this is where black people are right now and where do we want them to go. I think one of the things that's tough is that I have gone through that same reflection of seeing that, you know, systemically, when you try to usher in reforms, how long it takes, how to work with people from different backgrounds that really don't know what it's like to experience growing up in a community like Milwaukee and trying to build a legacy and starting at a disadvantage that other people in the state don't experience. He goes through his reflection of all that, but then says that it's clear that you need physical laws changed, and then you also need people's laws and their hearts to change too.
Right.
And it's so funny, like, it kind of brings us full circle. The first protest I went to was 2000 with the KKK, saying that they were coming to Milwaukee, you know, to make their statements known that, you know, they still had the same views. And on the opposite end, you had a beautiful backlash of people from across the community, all races.
Was that right there in Wisconsin?
Yeah, at the federal courthouse.
22 years ago.
Yeah.
And they got a permit at the federal courthouse. I was out there.
So that's where I met, literally, that's where I fell in love with fighting back in a way, and then seeing that, like, man, this is connected to like all these amazing individuals. I don't know if Brother Verdin remembers me out there too, but I saw a much younger, right, Brian Verdin. And like, I felt like I was able to get that energy from the same folks in my community that was like, this is what we about. And I've never let go of that. And it's to be able to say, even in the capacity, if I'm not elected or any of the leaders that are out there, how do we put everything on the line so that by the time that we are done, and we're also writing our books, and we go from here for the next generation to pick up the baton where we left off, that it is structured in a way to say, this is as far as we got, but this is as far as where you need to go too.
That's powerful. And, you know, even that process of you being so visible as an elected official, I think has helped people understand what capacity of elected could be if they had some heart.
That's real.
If they had some, you know, connection to the real pain on the ground, you know, because sometimes, you know, that connection is lost in the bureaucracy of everything, saying how long it take to reform. And so again, we applaud you for being that example. We are all inspired in a certain way today because, again, the struggle continues. We're continuing of the legacy, and we want to talk about some of those actions that what continues the legacy today, what that looks like, some of those actions that some of our organizations are involved with. We want to talk about the needs, like what do your organization need? Because people are paying attention and people want to step up and help. You know, it's really about that galvanizing of the community, especially here locally, because the problems are not hidden. They're very obvious and very blatant. And so there's a lot of people that want to get involved. So I want to use this time as just a way to sort of talk about where we go from here in terms of your own organization. Brother Justin, you can start it, but you talked a little bit about this recycling initiative, for example. You said something about economics, for example. Within that, let's just say, where do we go from here and how can people get involved with what you have going on?
To start off, brother, thank you so much for doing a great job pointing the different things out that people are speaking upon and identifying it so they can elaborate and do what I'm getting ready to do, and you are good at that. Thank you. The Black Underground Recycling comes from years and years of research combined with just loving our people. When in Chicago, we're a member of the UNIA, Mortar Chapter 401 Division in Chicago, and we're always out doing things with the community with them, or New Era Chicago, who marches through every project, the west side, south side does not care. There'd be 15, 20, 30 deep, or there'd be 100 deep with red, black, and green flags knocking on doors. We have to be bold. We have to state the facts of what they were in the past, because it's sort of like we're the last connection to that, because we saw it physically and were able to touch Martin Luther King, see him on TV, see the way he conducted himself, see the way he dressed, see the people around him. Because you can really tell a lot about people that are around you.
That's right.
You know, I don't need to go into the crackhead smoke. You want to smoke, you be around crackheads, you want to be a millionaire, you hang around millionaires. Well, if you want to be an activist, you hang around activists. So look at the men, John Lewis that went up to D.C., the many other peoples that he affected second and tertiary, that went back to their individual communities like our pops did. Most people say, I marched with King, go back and sit on their duff, wherever they came from. After marching with King, I would have to ask my mom the exact identification that they referred to our pops as, but if they call our pops, he would have to show up somewhere with 200 or 300 people in a drop of a dime. And I forgot what they referred to these men as, but he had them all around the nation. And if something was in your region, they get on that phone. My father was a 33rd degree Mason. He was the first black BA in the steel mills and the first crane operator in steel mills. So we know about that end of his life, my own father and Martin Luther King, and making the connection today. So we're the bridges. Everybody sitting here is the bridges because we sort of lived through that. We attended a school called Martin Luther King Experimental School. So it's still an experiment when we were kids to go into elementary school and be with other cultural and ethnic groups, Caucasians, Asians, Hispanics. We were the only one in Evanston. That was it. And so they even referred to it as an experiment. You know what I mean? So we're the living, breathing truth of the bridge of the facts of what happened. So when we went to the Million Man March, I hitchhiked from Stevens Point, Wisconsin to Chicago, from Chicago to D.C. So I'm in the car and everybody's like, everybody keeps calling you, bro, where we gonna stay? That's like, man, if y'all don't settle down. We ended up staying at the University of Howard Hotel, which was right around the block from where we met. We made Salat in the morning and we continued the day. There's a connection, bro. And we just have to make it.
That's right.
It's light and it's far, and church right behind us, brother. We've marched. We're in the room with at least 3-4 people that we've literally marched with, that we've rallied with, that been there when it's really close, and there could be somebody around the corner with a gun and blast us in our face kind of close. So the trust that's sitting at this table, and when you're sitting next to people who are true warriors, it's amazing, man, to be in the street, to know that you're fighting. You're the voice of people that are unheard. So you got to hold yourself to a higher standard, because once you get caught up, your word will never mean what it was once again. So it's imperative we share with our young brothers and sisters, conduct yourself every day like Allah is looking, because he sees everything. God sees everything. So if you're about this, then be about it all the time and be upright about it. When my father passed, I'm going to leave this alone, he built a building in Evanston called Prim Towers. It's the only building standing from that government president's program. When our old man passed, they came to my mom and smiles on their face. I want you to know, Miss Blake, Reverend Blake didn't have a red penny missing out of any of his things around building a building. If that building was built today, it'd be like $30 million. So for the last 40 years, these seniors have had somewhere to go and live. It's on a bus line, a train line, right down from Northwestern, and then a building down the street named the Jake and Blake Manor. We have to give that much of ourselves to build currently. So what are the issues that affect us currently? What would make Martin Luther King proud? I don't want to see his damn jersey on anybody's, chest or back. Put some of him into your life. I'm so tired of these young kids wearing these jerseys of people that are passing around the community. If you thought they were that great of a person, put some of them into your practices of your life. So I'm not going to take it on long, but the purpose of us saying this is because I'm sitting around people that have taken pieces of what they saw and they put it into their life and they put it into action. And I'm sorry I took you all around the bush to say that.
No, that's it.
But
that's
this man
just drop right quick if
is
you
awesome.
want to learn more about the Black Underground Recycling Initiative or any other things. Just drop any sort of contact, Facebook or
All we have right now is Facebook, but we're about to been in agreement with the Milwaukee Bucks, City of Milwaukee, the Bears, and Chicago, and we'll recycle everything in between.
Wow.
So those monies, we've done great things with little money. So when you look on Black Underground Recycling Facebook, you'll see we took seniors to the zoo, to plays, to concerts. We feed them. We employ children. We're out in the streets of Chicago with the murder capital, Inglewood, at 12, 1 o'clock at night trying to talk to the brothers and slow them down from things that could happen. Mm-hmm. So we thank you for your time again, Black Underground Recycling on Facebook, but we're going to change the world. Why? Because we're not going to go downtown and get on our knees and beg for money to do what we need to do in our community. It's self-sustaining. We'll be feeding other non-for-profits. Mm-hmm. We'll be the big bank. And those people that come looking like Les or Brown or whatever don't have to put on a suit. Come tell me the work you do, and we'll fund you. That's how serious we are about ours. Thank you, brother. Big ups to the Red, Black, and Green.
I love it. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Anybody else want to speak to the activity or actions that you're involved in currently, and maybe how people can get engaged and get involved? Because I know it's a lot always happening here in Milwaukee.
Yeah, recently we've taken on a campaign to free Theodore Edgecombe. He was a black man that was defending himself from a racist attacker. He had to kill the guy to get out of the situation, and he's facing life in prison. And so that's something that Justin over there has also been working on. And, we've been working very closely with the family. Mm. And it's been incredible seeing the impact of, the awareness around this campaign. The first night that we went out, we were kind of handing out flyers to cars that were passing by, and everyone's like, no, I've never heard of this happening before. And then a week later, all the cars we were trying to hand out to, they're like, I've heard about this case, I want to get involved. And so that just shows, getting boots on the ground, doing this direct action. I mean, it really gets people in the know, and the ability to make substantial change. What the family's been telling us, that as these protests have gone on, they see that the DA is starting to sort of be a bit more gentle with the arguments. It's starting to change his arguments because there's a lot more eyes on him now. Mm. And so like what we kind of, it's always the question you ask, like, what does your organization need from people? That just blew my mind, because I realized we never ask ourselves that question. We always ask, what can we do for people? Mm-hmm. And right. So but we do have needs, right? And we definitely need people that are, just consistent. We need people that are dedicated. We need people that are bold and willing to put themselves out there. Because it's scary getting into organizing first, So
what if somebody's sitting at home watching this and they might not be bold enough to get out there with you, or they might have other barriers that may, stop them from getting out there? Tell them what you need specifically. What do you need?
Send money.
I'm trying to alley you.
Well, so I'll say the Milwaukee Alliance is a grassroots organization, and we don't get any money from any random anonymous donors. We don't get any kind of big money things. We're not out there, like you said, begging people for whatever, especially people way up there that probably want us to do things that aren't the best for the community. We are fully funded by our membership, and we're fully funded by the community. And so, if you like...
Where can people find out about membership?
Thank you for that. So people could reach out to us on either our Instagram, which is Milwaukee Alliance, just one word, or you could look up our full name on Facebook. You could look up Milwaukee Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. And we respond right away. It's really easy to get involved with us. We're extremely accessible.
And you guys have a good reach, and so we have to let people know more often what's needed. A lot of our organizations, a lot of our grassroots, if you will, movements that could really build momentum and sustainability over time, because you all know it takes a lot of time and energy, but it also takes what? Money. It takes those resources. Yep. It's real, so we can't be shy about that in terms of communicating to folks, all the great people watching that may be interested in supporting, even from the comfort of their own home. Which goes to kind of the next point of conversation right quick. So if someone is at home, they're watching this, and they say, well, y'all talking all this protest talking, y'all out here doing all this. Protesting don't solve anything. Demonstrating and what you're talking about, passing out flyers, that's old news, with y'all handing out signs and screaming at buildings. Ain't nobody trying to do that in 2022. What would you say?
We won all of our demands that we fought for last year doing exactly that. We went door to door. We put it people first. We did rallies. We did direct action, and we got the park, Lindbergh Park, which is formerly named after a Nazi. We got that changed to Lucille Berrien Park, a freedom fighter that was born right here in Milwaukee. Was a great mentor for a lot of the great organizers that we see, like Brian VERDIN. and fostered over 100 children. That's incredible. We got, and she much better reflects the area that park is in, right? I mean, you had a Nazi racist park in the middle of Black Milwaukee. Wow. That was unacceptable.
Wow. We got those streets, we got those schools. We got rid of one of them, but they still overpopulate the demographic, the geography.
And another thing that we accomplished, we got $2.4 million taken out of the sheriff's budget to better fund parks, to better fund homeless folks, to better fund programs.
And so just to be clear, you're saying those victories were won, those small victories, each one of those victories were won through methods and means of protesting and demonstrating.
Exactly.
Got another prime one, if we could, Kimberly Motley. Yeah. Getting the police officer tried after she went in front of a judge and was able to get him indicted. They murdered 3 people in the African American community. He happened to be a brother, but you're not my brother when you murder 3 people that look like us. Mm-hmm. So through Kimberly Motley, through the protest this man, and TPR, Vaughn, and everybody else was involved with that kept this live. How many years later was the Anderson case? It's 4 or 5 years or 3 years or something like that. And these people protested this long and kept it live until attorney Kimberly Motley got this man indicted. So a police officer would be sitting in the courtroom this year on the accusation of murder. Mm-hmm. And
again.
What?
Again.
So she's an excellent lawyer. Mm-hmm. She's in the streets with the people. We met her when we came down there. I'm sorry, I didn't mention I'm Jacob Blake's uncle that was shot in the back 7 times by a police officer in Kenosha. Mm-hmm. And so we've met some incredible people. She's one of them. When I met her, she was out marching. Mm-hmm. And the next time I saw her, she was in court. So we needed, literally from the streets to the boardroom and in our governmental situations, we need to put people in there that are going to sound what the community's asking for, and not because he's my dear brother and I got to keep his feet to the fire, I'm going to come visit him.
Mm-hmm. As you should.
And that's where we need to be as a community. Stop talking about what we haven't gotten. Demand now, this is what we want. These are our needs. Everybody else does.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's the whole game. You voted for me because you're going to get what you want. Go ahead, dear sister.
I wasn't going to speak. I was just sitting up.
Justin, it's your group. You go ahead on anyway.
Okay.
We need some young blood.
Yeah.
Well, I'm old, but okay, thank you. No, I definitely agree with you. Demanding what it is that you want, and also, you mentioned that people are always saying, protesting doesn't work, or sharing info online is like the biggest thing I hear every single day, but. All throughout 2020, all we did was share info online. Anything that's happening, it's online. Anything it's online. So that does work. That's everything that I do or any information that I get, it's right here on my phone. So for anybody that ever thinks, I can't, go to a protest or I can't donate, that's fine. Just share what I'm over here trying to let you see. Like, I didn't put all this work into these infographics for nothing. Like, that takes time and effort and money, honestly. So just share it at the very least.
Show support.
That's an awesome point of support and unity, collective voice. You can share it online. Don't cost you a dime. Mm-hmm. Don't cost you. You can do it from wherever you sitting and chilling. That's a very good point. That's greatly appreciated. Christine, just from you all, you guys push a button and it's a lot of people involved. Mm-hmm. Talk about what's one of the hardest things about organizing. For the people watching, for the people that may be learning, for the people that's growing, which is all of us, what's one of the hardest things, some of those lessons that we've learned organizing over the years?
I think a continuous lesson is how to keep people active, so that people don't just turn out for actions or things like that, or come home and are somehow disconnected. But how can we create different activities? It doesn't always have to be about organizing too, but spaces for organizing, for planning, but also for celebrating. And I think, to me, in a lot of reflection, I think collective reflection too. I think that's really important space to be intentional about, because we're human beings. We need to connect with each other, and we also. So I think I I actually think, so it's kind of a simple solution in some ways, you know, a beautiful, simple solution, but creative. This is great creative space here, by the way, at your school. We have a artist affiliate group that's also created space for like big art builds. And so I feel like all of that is really important. Of course, challenging time. We're in a pandemic right now, and struggling to, you know, try to get everyone protected so we can, get out of this. And I will say that I think our community has been very courageous because we have been putting our lives on the line too during this pandemic. I know we're doing the things you have to do to protect yourself and protect others, but I know, like, you know, the kind of canvassing that was done in 2020, Black Lives Matter movement, you know, the work that we did here in Milwaukee around the case of Joel Acevedo, you know, the protests and all that, and it really, we're continuing to put our lives on the line for the struggle, and we want to do that thoughtfully and carefully because we need everybody. We need everyone who's in the fight. For me, this 2021 and others was hard because we organized so hard for so long. We did about everything you could do. Right, everything you could do. Right. We lobbied, we marched, we did that 9-day march from Milwaukee to Madison with immigrant essential workers and their kids. Wow. And civil disobedience, right? And for in Milwaukee, Madison, Washington, D.C., and we came up short. Yeah. So Manchin was the one who blocked the Build Back Better, which was the big social investment in a whole bunch of things. And what we were fighting for was obviously within that too was immigration reform, but all kinds of important social programs. And at the end of the day, that it hasn't come to pass. So. For us, I think one challenge is going to be in 2022. We just knew it, and kept echoing this. Like, the Democratic Party needs to deliver because otherwise people want to participate because it's been a legacy of betrayal or wait for tomorrow or another day. Your turn will come, and so. I think it's going to be very challenging, to be honest. In 2022, we have very important races. Obviously, here we have David, running for a very important race too. We have a governor's race, a Milwaukee, a mayoral race, February 15th, the primary, and the U.S. Senate. And so, for me, I think it's about reminding people that we have made progress. And sometimes, I've been going to struggle 20 years now, going 20 years for immigration reform. And it really felt like 2021 was the year, that was in reach. Yeah. And we did nothing wrong. We gave it our all. But I think, it's about not losing the faith, the hope, and measuring. We are closer. You also have to see progress. It's important to see. Progress is not necessarily where we got, but it's under. How are you measuring it? And how do we measure it? There's more support for immigration reform than there ever has been. There's broad solidarity. If it were up to the people, it would be done. And if the people could actually vote on it, it would be done. But it's being stuck in Congress, where we know corporate influences, definitely lobbying on their end and prevailed on their end. And obviously in Wisconsin, but in 2022, the Senate race is up, Ron Johnson is up. And so it's to remind people, it's also like, we're close. We got the closest ever in 20 years. So we can't give up. Basically, don't ever give up. And you kind of have to, I think, this is my perspective on when I started as an activist, it was in my early 20s. Coming as being exposed to it as through student activism in Madison, but I think it's again we have to see it as it's beyond our lifetime. So that's why you put all your passion and all your energy, and I think that's the thing. If you're saying what's the thing, it's passion, energy, collective process. What's the bottom line? How is it? You have to be super intentional about collective process, and that you know where real power resides. Many people think power resides above.
With the people.
It doesn't. It resides with the people
Our power
and the power. And if you understand that,
That's right.
then you relate to that and you understand it. And you transmit that to others, and people understand that. And that's where that change is going to come. So I guess it's like, for me, it's about creating a pipeline of true people coming out of our movements, that we have to support those folks, and we have to prepare and support more and more folks like that.
That's right.
That we have a chance to add one more seat in the Senate, and we can win these things, but those folks have to come from the movement, have to be accountable from the movement. And then I say we don't just focus on electoral, it's about building leadership. One of the initiatives we're doing now is Essential Worker Rights Network, which is about helping people know what their rights in the workplace are, to support them in those struggles, and to build power there, as we have done with the strike in the past, and obviously with the youth movement too, to continue to encourage that movement around frontline struggles of education and all aspects of our lives.
Thank you so much. That collective process is super critical. Being able to move forward and keeping people aware of their own power so they don't get burnout or lose interest and passion in different ways that they can connect with each other to keep the passion going. We have to make sure that we're making time and effort to talk about our victories and celebrate those, to keep refueled and keep charged, so that we know that we do have progress. There is progress being made. We talk about that a lot. I agree. I would like to say that, True School could help in a lot of these ways. Share the victories, broadcast the wins.
That's right.
Sometimes you might be too busy doing the work. On to the next fight. You can't even talk about the ass you just kicked. But how you want to motivate people?
Where's the next one?
And the next one. Right. But that will get people excited, right? And they know you really, like, she 2 feet in, they're really getting it. And there's another one. And that's how you galvanize people. We gotta make sure that we are sharing that wisdom of experience, as you did so eloquently. I appreciate that. And then also sharing our victories is so critical.
Dear brother, Fred Hampton Jr. once said to us one time, the work that our father did in Chicago and his father did prior to being murdered in his own house. If you can envision a big Nile River and what you need is on the other side, his father and our father pushed a stone in that water just like that, sister. Your year wasn't blown. It didn't go away. You pushed a stone in that water. And it's part of a foundation that eventually be on top of that water, and people be able to go across and get what they need.
It's beautiful.
And when he said that, I said, oh, yeah, when he said it, bro.
That's right.
So we got to look at ourselves like that. We do got to celebrate wins. I don't care how small it is.
That's right.
Because speaking of that, and I'm going to get out of that, Locke, leaders of Kenosha, and Kenosha that helped the Blake family immensely and marched to Milwaukee with us and everything else. They got people getting paid to sit on the school board now. They got a piece that was cut out of the budget and wiped away for the county for an EEOC position back in the budget.
That's big.
These are things to celebrate.
That's right.
Yeah.
They did great things with the Blake family. And they went outside of that because we were always trying to vibe off them to help you get some of your issues resolved while you help us with little Jake. And that coming together led to them being in Milwaukee, helping here, and led them getting elected officials or showing how much power people have, because they went into that school board election and got what they wanted because they had the numbers.
That's it.
And you got to keep refueling your people to get out to the next struggle. It's got to do with education. It's got to do with economic. That's not rallying. Working with this brother in government, writing a bill. We need to learn how to write bills so we can help him. This is what we need. You don't have to do the work. They do that all the time in D.C. So you point out to them and then work on it.
Yeah.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. This is the theme of our program today. Where do we go from here? Chaos or community? We want you to make sure you follow up with each one of our featured guests and their organization and see how you can tap in, get yourself involved, get engaged. And again, let's celebrate each other. Let's celebrate our wins, but let's celebrate each other. All right?
That's right.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.